Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Lianas Senior Transition Support, helping you navigate home care and senior residences.
And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Matt Del Vecchio, specializing in life transitions, home care, and the senior living industry. Corey is off today. Welcome to our Helping Moms and Dads segment. This segment, which we do usually on the second half of every show of Life Unrehearsed, it's supporting the sandwich generation with some unique topics and dynamic guests. And this week, we're going to be talking about elder care planning. You know, as our population ages, families and their loved ones have to deal with some challenging decisions. Add this to a healthcare system that's really stretched to its limits. You know, how do we navigate and obtain services in the public system? Maybe we want to look at some private avenues. What if I need a service that isn't even offered in the public system? Where do I go? You know, for example, mobile healthcare services, blood tests, physiotherapy, dental hygienists, all becoming very popular. And what if I need a home assessment just because it's becoming a little too risky at home? There are just really far too many questions, and the questions increase as we age and families get nervous and anxious, and they need some support. So I'd love to bring in Kirstin Bennett here to help us out. Kirstin is an elder care planner, a certified health and wellness coach, and has also served many years in the home care industry. Kirstin provides support and guidance for families and their loved ones throughout the aging process and navigating their life transitions. Kirstin, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you for having me.
Kirstin, thanks for joining us here on a Saturday on a beautiful St. Jean Baptist weekend. Hope everyone's having a good long weekend. And Kirstin, just for, I guess, a definition, how would you define elder care planning?
So fundamentally, I'd say elder care planning covers the navigation, like you said, of the entire network of public, community, and private professional resources and support systems for typically older adults and their families. And technically, elder care planners are facilitators in the circle of care, and we provide comprehensive and knowledgeable advice to source information on resources, collaborate in creating a game plan, and providing encouragement to keep the plan moving forward through some guidance and accountability measures. And it can involve assistance with, as you said, transition support, care or respite planning, hospital or convalescence discharge planning, health or condition-specific research and advocacy, advanced care planning, and much more.
Well, you know, I love the fact that you're saying game plan. You know, we need to navigate, but not only the game plan, it's half the battle sometimes is sticking to the game plan. There's always a lot of moving parts, and it's one thing to know what you have to do, but it's sometimes challenging to actually execute it. And I'm glad you mentioned that. You're there to provide that support even after the game plan. So I'd love to hear some of the biggest challenges that families face as their loved ones get older and perhaps in need of more assistance.
Well, you know, what's interesting is some enter the caregiving world with what I say, like the phone call. That's when you have to start making decisions or taking actions without any warning. And it's a very dramatic change, often without, like I said, warning. And quite honestly, family members are basically in shock and thrown into the role. And because it happens so quickly, it can take over and become quite overwhelming. Others enter the caregiving world with a slow decline. This is where there are like subtle changes, and as time goes on, you find yourself doing more and more, to the point where the caregiver role has turned from helpful into sort of overwhelming. So for some, time is the biggest challenge. Things take time to figure out if you don't have support or guidance, and when you're working or involved in other daily activities, caring for others already, people can easily get to a point of burnout without ever really expecting to. Other challenges, I would say, would be the potential financial burden. There's grief, distance, guilt, lack of family support, or differences of opinion sometimes. Having conversations when a loved one or a family member is either in denial because they don't want to be in that situation, or a loved one really can't comprehend because of a cognitive condition. For many people with dementia, even early stages, they don't think there is anything wrong and don't understand all the fuss because that region of their brain is actually in dysfunction. So just this simple context may cause frustrations for all parties involved.
You bring up some very good points, and I love what you're saying about the caregivers. You know, on Life Unrehearsed, we've had several caregiving experts, and I'm always amazed by the stat. You know, almost 1 in 4 Canadians are caregivers for a loved one, and there's not a caregiver school, right? It's thrust upon you, like you say, and before you know it, you're in that caregiver role, and it's increasing. So that's the guidance of an elder care planner. I think could help with that. I love the point you're bringing up. Now, what do you think? What are some of the key factors that family caregivers need to have in place to help themselves and therefore help the ones they love?
Well, that's a really good question. There are really 4 basic needs. First off, they need information about resources, services, the disease process, or how to prepare for future events. Secondly, I would say they need emotional support, guidance, and assistance with family issues. Next would be the actual services from, like you said, the public, the community, or even the private sector. Those that are local, trustworthy, and reliably sourced. And finally, I think budgeting or other ways to finance services. It's important to have a financial snapshot and consider the options accordingly. I often also, it's a little tidbit, I view from a more of a holistic approach. So everyone's opinion and wishes really needs to be considered in the game plan, as we talked about before.
Yeah, absolutely, especially amongst siblings as well, where there's going to be differing points of views at times, so totally understandable there. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed, Matt Delvecchio, and we're talking to Kirstin Bennett, who's an elder care planner, certified health and wellness coach. Kirstin, you know, there must be some scenarios where it's obviously where your services are going to be of help and assistance to families, but I imagine there's probably some situations that are more difficult than others. Can you talk about a couple of them?
Yeah, so like I did mention the concept of denial. This comes up often and isn't always from the individual requiring the care or assistance. Other than that, situations where there is or has been any type of abuse can be challenging, but unfortunately not uncommon, and it can take on many forms. And perhaps most interesting is the fact that many people who have become tasked with making a plan or decisions on a loved one's behalf may be experiencing their own adversities with mental health. And the pandemic definitely brought attention to a lot of these concerns. But when you hire an elder care planner, basically we're here to listen, to find quick resources for immediate actions, like you suggested, a mobile dentist or a hairdresser, and then create the opportunity for continued coaching support, sort of someone in your corner. And we collaborate to find the appropriate solutions, perhaps within a specific budget or determining ideal local, public, community, or the private resources, as we talked about, really providing guidance and accountability to ensure the steps are taken, a little friendly nudge every once in a while to help keep that plan moving forward, or even doing some of the legwork on their behalf. Ultimately, you know, we're here to sort of save time and energy as well.
Yeah, and time and energy, and like you say, even give a bit of a mental break. You brought up a good point about mental health in the pandemic. It really has taken a toll on everyone. You talk to anyone, and you know, there are some challenges, and the role of yourself as an elder care planner role, I often hear the phrase, I don't feel on an island as much on my own. You know, I appreciate the hand-holding and the support, and there's some mental health relief as well. Now, Kirstin, we have to head out to traffic, and we're talking with elder care planner Kirstin Bennett. And when we come back, Kirstin, I'd love to ask you, what, in your opinion, what would be the best piece of advice you could offer someone with aging parents or loved ones in needs of assistance? And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. My name's Matt Delvecchio as we continue our segment called Helping Moms and Dads. And we're talking with Kirstin Bennett, elder care planner, certified health and wellness coach, ton of experience in the home care industry as well. Kirstin, you've been bringing up some excellent points for families. You know, as we age, challenges arise and elder care planning becomes more and more important. And just before traffic, I asked you the question, what is the best piece of advice you could offer someone with aging parents or loved ones in need of assistance?
Well, this is a tricky one because I guess it really depends on which part of the care journey they're at. But I suppose I would say no matter what is to advocate for your loved one and for yourself. If it doesn't sit right or feel right, ask the question. Be friendly but firm in your quest for answers and options. My father always taught me with many things in life, if you don't ask, you'll never know. And I've just added a little bit of my own wisdom to this in the sense that it really is how you ask. So friendly but firm. And as a final thought, I told you this was a bit tricky. So I think it's really important. I would like to add to people not to forget to recognize their efforts and that they should offer themselves a bit of self-compassion and essentially realize that whatever they are doing or have done, no matter how small a step, even reaching out for assistance in the process is really one more step closer to finding a solution or a resource that will help improve the quality of life of their loved one. I often say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So just keep putting one step in front of the other and appreciate the effort within the journey, as hard as that may be.
Excellent words of advice and so true. Sometimes we lose sight of the fact that you're trying, as we mentioned before, you're usually thrown into this role of caregiver, and it's important to step back and it's okay to pat yourself on the back every now and then, even though you might feel you're in a tornado. And I love the fact that you're saying advocating diplomatically, be respectful. The healthcare, once you're in the healthcare system, God love the workers, but they're under the gun as well. And so they would like to be treated with respect. They really are. The vast majority are doing the best they possibly can under very difficult situations. So be respectful, but it's okay. Squeaky wheel gets the grease sometimes, and you do have to speak up and advocate. Love that, Kirstin. So give me an example. If someone calls you, who would a typical client of yours be?
Well, like I said, this can vary. Sometimes, like we discussed, it's a family who's thrown into the ocean and needs a little life buoy until they can catch their breath, or it could very well be anyone that is realizing that things are changing and want to put a plan in place with everyone's input. It is often the children of the older adults looking for answers or solutions, but it could easily be a friend, a partner, or the individual or a couple themselves wanting to have a conversation around advanced care planning options. To be honest, you can really do this at any age. I've often said, let's get the conversation started, because for these topics, for some of them, they're difficult, but if together we can plan early or remove the stigma through conversation and make it more about understanding one's choices and having input, well, then when the time is upon us, we can feel comfort that there is already a good plan in place. So it can really vary.
It certainly can. Listening to Life Unrehearsed here with Matt Delvecchio, and that's the voice of Kirstin Bennett. Kirstin's an elder care planner, certified health and wellness coach. The terminology, even, Kirstin, elder care planner, is relatively new over the last couple of years. It's only going to get more and more important. So how does the process work? If someone wants to engage your services, what happens? What do you do? How do you reach out? And explain the process to me.
Sure. We're continually working on making this as an easy process as possible, but basically it begins with a free sort of no obligation initial call to sort of gather a bit of contact information and to determine if the services that I offer can be of help. After that's considered and determined that yes, I can be of help, then the first step is setting up what I refer to as a discovery consultation. This is typically virtual, but in certain cases it might be in person. But the virtual consult lasts about an hour, and we discuss the current situation, do a needs assessment, and determine what sort of the short-term and potentially long-term goals are. And I get a bit of understanding of what everybody's roles are, and we talk about a few immediate ideas to assist with any urgent circumstances. And then the discovery consultation, it's followed up with a personalized written support summary that reviews the outcomes of the call, offering different resources and a bit of a game plan of what the next steps could be. And to help, and during the consultation, we determine the best way to follow up. Often email is easier for people who are busy, but it can be a phone call as well, so that I can do a little check-in and see how and if things are progressing in a positive way. And at this point, it's completely up to them. Most sometimes people just will continue on and are happy with the resources that we've provided. But if they would like to continue with some one-on-one coaching or planning support on either, we do an hourly basis, a la carte, or a package of hours, and that can be used over a 6-month period, knowing that this may be more of an ongoing supportive need requirement. Either way, it could mean a home safety evaluation. It could be document curation assistance, reviewing all the POAs, the wills, the mandates, and so on and so forth. It could be care mapping, care planning support, condition-specific resource management, even family discussions. It's really whatever the family needs and wants.
It's amazing just listening to you and almost exhausting, because you really do cover so much ground, and it's because there's just many different scenarios that can play out, all the way from public and private, yes, and what your options are. And good on you, because most of the time, I would imagine, Kirstin, it's families are stressed when they're reaching out to you and they need answers. So I would imagine there's situations where there might be an adult child here, or a mom or a dad here, but a brother, a sister, a son that's out of town. So how do you work the out of town situation?
Well, I'm actually really happy that you raised that point. So this is kind of the ideal service for that situation. Since most of what we do together can be done virtually, it doesn't really matter where family members live. So I'm able to stay in communication quite easily via email, Zoom, merge calls, so that everyone is on the same page and feels involved in the collaboration.
And it must be very common, because everyone's not always in Montreal. Kirstin, we're already out of time. Yep. We can go on forever.
No worries.
I want to thank you very much for coming on a Saturday here and on the Saint Jean Baptiste long weekend. And how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Right. So thank you for asking. Soon you'll be able to book the initial, let's refer to it as introductory call via Calendly. But for now, you can reach me directly at my number, 514-795-5065. Or you can find me on the Lianas Senior Transition Support website, where you can fill out a contact form or call that number and they'll get in touch with me.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Kirstin. That's Kirstin Bennett, elder care planner, certified health and wellness coach. We want to thank you for tuning into Life Unrehearsed. A bit bittersweet, because this is our last show before a summer break. We will be back in September, but I got to say, looking forward to having a summer off, and want to thank you very much for your loyalty, and love to hear you or listen to us in September. And while we're at it, in the thanking mode, I want to thank our technical producer, Marco and Peter. Great job today, and enjoy your summer. We'll be back in September.